Sports journalism has a reputation as being generally harmless. Sport is a form of leisure and professional sport is consumed as such. It is essentially a form of entertainment for the viewer, reader or listener. Ethically, therefore, your run-of-the-mill coverage of a sporting event or fixture is unlikely to throw up any ethical dilemmas. A match report or live commentary, for example, will focus primarily on the events that play out during said match. It's when sports stories garner enough of a public interest to blur the lines with news stories, however, that ethical dilemmas seem to arise. Sadly, most sports news crossover stories tend to come from off-field events, generally negative in subject and sometimes tragic. Surely the most famous example in the British press is the coverage of the Hillsborough disaster on the 15th of April 1989. A crushing of terraces at Sheffield Wednesday Stadium which resulted in the deaths of 96 Liverpool fans at an FA Cup semi-final match against Nottingham Forest. 4 days after the tragedy, the Sun's front page infamously read, "The Truth," and claimed that Liverpool fans were at fault for the deaths, rumours that came from falsified testimonies of police officers on the ground that day. In this instance, obviously, numerous ethical guidelines were breached, and it's important to remember that the Sun weren't the only news outlet who received criticism for their reporting of Hillsborough. Numerous publications, individuals, and even TV programmes have had to apologise for unethical references to the disaster in intervening years. Perhaps this highlights the confusion that arises in the media when this crossover occurs between news and sport. There is a dichotomy between the normally positively connoted sporting sphere and the more serious, negative world of news. This creates a potentially very touchy balancing act, one that is occasionally interpreted and covered incorrectly. In recent years, however, stories that could have been potentially hazardous from an ethical standpoint have, by and large, been covered professionally. At the recent Sports Journalism Association Awards, The Guardian's Daniel Taylor was named Sports Writer of the Year, thanks to a portfolio that included investigative work into the recently uncovered sex abuse scandals in football, the FA's treatment of Eni Aluko, and recent allegations of bullying and racism against Chelsea youth team coaches Glyn Williams and Graham Ricks, amongst other things. Likewise, Martha Kellner and Sean Ingle won the Scoop of the Year for their work in exposing Chris Froome's failed drug test. While sports journalism may still have this reputation of being concerned with only light-hearted affairs, things are starting to change, and ethical concerns are now largely prioritised as they should be.